So if they are using fugitive pigments, then how can we trust this line? Hi guys, this is again Alan and welcome back to my channel. Today here in the Philippines, we are now on our 20th week of the quarantine and I'm praying that you guys are all safe and sound at home. I'm very faithful that we are gonna get through this really soon. Today we are gonna be having again another watercolor brand. You've been requesting for this and in fact this was the third place in our poll. This is no other than Korea's Mungyo Watercolors. I got my Mungyo 24 colors watercolor set at Shopee Philippines, particularly at the tkenv3.ph account for 1,299 Philippine pesos or roughly 26 US dollars. I ordered this on June 25 and it arrived on July 2. According to their website, they have 48 colors and 17 of these are single pigment. And aside from the regular colors, they also have two special sets. The first one is the Nostalgia of Pastel, which is composed of 12 colors and 4 of these are single pigment. And the other set is the Brilliant Memory Metallics, which is also 12 colors. And these are made out of special pigments. The manufacturers are naming the pigments as pearl, gold, etc. It came very well wrapped with all these handle with care sticker, so I'm happy about that. Now let's do the unboxing. So now here is our Mungyo Professional Watercolor box. So my first impression on the box is that it looks very premium with the golden lettering and the logo, and it feels embossed, I think, and that adds to the the classic feel, but at the same time it's not too formal because of the colorful artwork here. And in front you'll find here of course the name of the brand, Mungyo, and their tagline, passion for masterpieces. And it shows here a preview on how the set looks like, and it says here 24 pan sets, and it says here these professional watercolors have vivid color intensity, brilliant and transparent colors with superior dilution and superb light fastness. So let's take a look on this side. And at the back you'll find here again the name of the brand. So passion for masterpieces, it says here, this pan type watercolor will lead you to new experience and genuine pleasure of magic colors for professional artists. Made up of the purest pigment and Kordofan gum arabic with no fillers, artists can obtain vivid color intensity and superb dilution. The colors mix together perfectly, offering superbly subtle shades, served in convenient and luxurious metal palette for the road. So it says here that it is made out of only the pigments and gum arabic, no filler, so that's a good thing. And also here they've included a preview on which colors are included in the set, and also they have included the number codes of the colors. You will find these number codes in their color chart, which I'll be linking at the description box. And also I forgot to mention earlier, I'll be putting the Shopee link where I got this set. So here are some characters in Korean, and also it says here it conforms to the standard, it's made in Korea, and they also provided here their website and their address. So now let's take a look at the palette inside. I'm so excited. So here now is the tin case, and it has here their logo printed on the cover, and it looks so premium. I really love this. So it has a ring at the back. So this is a standard tin. So now let's open our set. Now let's take a look at an individual pan. In front you'll find their logo, of course, the number code of the color and the color name. On this side you'll find here the AP logo, so it confirms to the standard. And here you'll find a small box. I think this is about the transparency. So this is transparent. and it says here Series A, and it also has 3 stars here, so I think that's about the Lightfastness rating. So if it's 3, it's the highest. And it says here PB29, which is an ultramarine pigment, but it's cobalt blue, so that's interesting. And on this side, again, the color name, the number code, and the name of the color in 4 different languages. And at the back, it says here MWPH-819, so that's the color code again. And it says here made in Korea, and also the website. Now let's uncover our pans. So let's begin with this one. So this is the paper cover, which I'm gonna be setting aside. Aside from the paper cover, it is also wrapped in plastic sheet. So here now is an unwrapped half pan. On this side, you'll find the number code, so if in case you forgot the color name, just go to their website and look for the PDF of their color chart, and you will find there the color names with the corresponding number codes. So now let's uncover all our pans. So here now are our pans, and I have rearranged them according to my preferred sequence, and I'm giving you now a closer look. It looks delicious, right? And I know this reminds you of something, of a particular brand, and that's the Prima marketing brand. And I know you are aware of the controversy about where the Prima marketing is from. And some artists have already compared this. Some of them have confirmed that the Prima marketing is a rebranded or a repacked version of the Mungyo. Of course, we are yet to prove if that is true, and I'm not daring to contact the manufacturers of these paints to ask about it, because I know they're not gonna admit it in case it's true. So in order to give a little bit of light, we can do a comparison later on, a swatch by swatch comparison, because I've already inspected the colors in this set that I have, the tropical set, and I have found out that 6 of these colors have the same pigment formula as compared to the Mungyo. So we are gonna be having a side-by-side comparison swatching later after we do our sample painting. So now let's do our swatches and sample painting, and for this I'm gonna be using, as always, Arches 185 cold press cotton paper, and for our brushes I'm using my Raphael Precision size 2 brush and my Rembrandt Sable brush size 4. So let's do this. So let's begin with white, which uses PW6. Next we have lemon yellow, which uses PY3. Oh, and this is so bright. Next we have yellow, which uses PY14. PY14 is Diary Light, and that is not a light fast pigment, so I'm surprised they have included this pigment in this professional set. And I've also seen from the other colors that they have this mixed, so I'm not so happy about that. Next we have orange, which uses PO13 and PY14 again. PO13 is benzidine, and yeah, it's poor in light fastness. So for vermilion, it is PO13 again, so it's benzidine, and it's not a very light fast pigment. I think it's only number 3. You can Google more information about this pigment. Next is permanent red, which uses PR112 and PR170. Next color is permanent rose, that uses PR57:1. So again, this is another color that is poor in light fastness. This is lethal rubine, if I remember correctly. Next color is cold pink, which uses PR81. This is rhodamine, and that is known to be a fugitive color. So why are they using this not so light fast and fugitive color in a professional set? But if you're not considering light fastness, this is really a beautiful pink color. Next is permanent violet, which uses PV23. This next color is cobalt blue, and it's quite weird because they're naming it as PB29, and we all know that PB29 is ultramarine. PB28 should be the code for cobalt blue, or PB74 if it's cobalt blue deep. Yeah, this is an ultramarine. And now it's raining outside. Next is PB27, Prussian blue. Next we have cerulean blue, which uses PB15:3. I think it is more appropriate to call this tallow blue green shade instead of cerulean blue, because usually cerulean blue is PB35 or PB36. Now we have malachite green, which uses PG7, PB15:3, and PY14. So of course this is not the real mineral, this is only an imitation. Next we have viridian, which uses PG7. I think this should be called tallow green blue shade instead of viridian, because viridian, as we all know, is PG18. Next we have cadmium green light, which uses PG7, PY14, and PB15:3. So that makes this color just a hue, because these pigments are not cadmium colors. Next is yellow green, which uses PY14 and PG7. Next we have olive green, which now uses PB27, PY14, and PB15:3. I wonder how come this color looks so warm when there are no any warm colors put in this mixture. Next is Naples yellow, which uses PW6 and PY42. Next we have yellow ochre, which surprisingly uses two pigments. It contains PY42 and again PY14. Next is burnt sienna, which uses PR101. Next is light red, which uses PR101, PY14 again, and PR48:4. Next is olive brown, which uses PR101, PB27, and PY14. Next is Van Dyke brown, which uses PR101, again PY14, and PBK9. I think there is an abundance of PY14 in the location of Mungyo, so they included it very well in their mixes. Next is PBK9, which is the black color. So now, while we are waiting for our swatches to dry, let's first do our sample painting. And I'll be speeding this up to save time, so if you have any questions about our process, just comment it below and I'll be answering you as soon as I can. So let's start. Now we are done with our sample painting, and I think we can now remove our tape. Now, since there are rumors that Prima Marketing watercolors are rebranded paints from Mungyo, as well as Jane Davenport, but there are no absolute proofs yet, we are going to be comparing all the Prima watercolors that I have that have the same pigments in the 24 color set of Mungyo. So I found that there are 7 which are similar. But we also have to consider that some of the pigments here are very common even to other brands like the PG7, PB27, and PV23. But what we are gonna be looking at here are not just the pigments, but also the reaction of the paints, how similar these paints are, and also how they behave on paper. And another note that I have is that Prima Marketing has 12 sets, and each set has 12 colors, so in total they have 144 colors. Mungyo only has 72 colors, so if it's a fact that Prima got its colors from Mungyo, where did they get the other colors? So if it's true, maybe they are sourcing the other colors from other manufacturers, or they are mixing their own colors. We don't know. So now let's begin with our swatching. Let's start with the palms. So now it's dry, we can now have a closer look. Visually, and also how they moved and reacted in our paper, I think they're just the same. I really felt no difference while using them. I think if I'm gonna be using these two colors without their color names or labels, I might just mistaken the other one for the other one. Now our sample painting and swatches are finally dry, we can now have a closer look. Now let's begin with the color selection. I think I have a small issue here. It has 2 yellows, 1 white, 2 oranges, 3 reds, 1 purple, 3 blues, 5 greens, 6 earths. I'm counting the Naples yellow as an earth color, and a black. My first issue here is that it only has 2 yellows. I think it would be better if it has another one, which should be a warm yellow. I'm okay with the 3 blues. What I'm worried about is there are 5 greens. I love green, but I think this is too much for a 24 color set. When it comes to the earth colors, I'm okay with these. But first I need to note that in yellow ochre, why did they need to add PY14? PY42 should be enough, and PY14 is a fugitive color, so I don't like it. And burnt sienna here is PR101. I have no issue about PR101, but this version is kind of weak for me. Now let's go to these three earth colors. They are all beautiful, especially the olive brown, but I'm afraid to mix them with other colors because these three are already made out of three pigments. If we mix it with other colors, we might get muddy colors, so please take note of that. Now when it comes to the transparency, I think most of them are transparent. Now when it comes to the movement, it doesn't move the fastest, but it's manageable. I've also noticed that these paints lift very easily, so if you're the type of artist who layers a lot, you might want to dry your first layer first very well before putting your second layer. Another issue here is the color names. I'm very much bothered here because this is PB29. It should be ultramarine, not cobalt blue. Cobalt blue should be PB28 and PB74 if it's deep. And upon checking their color chart, I saw that they have an ultramarine there, but it is made out of PB29 and PB27, so that's weird. And that combination is the hurricane of Prima Marketing Tropicals. So there's another proof there. Another weird here is the cerulean blue, PB15:3. That's a tallow blue. Yeah, okay, not weird, but I think it's more proper to call this tallow blue than the cerulean blue because it is more appropriate to name PB36 and PB35 cerulean blue, not PB15:3. Another weird naming here is the Viridian, which is a PG7. This is PG7, so it should be tallow green, blue shade. Viridian should be PG18. Now let's go to my main issue in this line. Please don't be mad at me, but I am quite disappointed that they are using lots of fugitive pigments in their line. Okay, let's start with the PY14. This is the Yarelide yellow, and this is a fugitive color or a poor color when it comes to light fastness. It is often used in inks, and as you can see, it is very much present in their mixes, which makes me worry about the other colors too. Next pigment is the PO13, which is a benzidine orange. It is also poor in light fastness, and this is also worrying me. Another fugitive pigment here is the PR57S21, which they used here in the permanent rose. This is lethal rubin, and it's also, yeah, really poor in light fastness, although it's a beautiful cool red. Another fugitive pigment included here is the Cold Pink's PR81, which is a rhodamine. I think among those four pigments that I've mentioned, this is the most fugitive. So yeah, it's a beautiful color, but you know, it makes me feel disappointed to see these fugitive pigments in a professional line of watercolors. Because when you say professional, it should be confidently used in commissioned paintings or paintings to be displayed or, yeah, to be framed. So if they are using fugitive pigments, then how can we trust this line? Another unusual thing in this line is that they don't have any PV19 in their line. I can understand that they don't have cobalts or cadmium colors, because those are expensive colors or pigments, but PV19 is really quite common even in some student grade paints. So yeah, I think that's unusual. Now let's go to our favorite portion, which is the comparison part, and let's begin with the set of paints that are, of course, less performing as compared to the Mungyo Pro watercolors. So let's begin with Dong A Creative, Best Buy watercolors, and Cymbeline watercolors. Our next group are some student grade paints that, of course, are less performing as compared to the Mungyo Professional Watercolors. Let's begin with the Faber-Castell Solid Watercolors, Reeves Watercolor, Giorgione Watercolor Cakes, Mary's Watercolors in Tubes, Prang Watercolors 2009 and Prang Watercolors 2007. Also with Mary's Watercolors in half pans, Pebeo Studio Watercolors in Tubes, Faber-Castell in tubes, Pentel Watercolors Fine in tubes also, Art Ranger Watercolors, Kuretake Gansai Tambi, Winsor & Newton China, Superior Fan Palette Watercolors, Pretty Excellent Watercolors, Simi Art Solid Watercolors, and the Superior Watercolors in half pans. Now let's go to the student grade paints. These are actually my top 3 student grade paints that are very much comparable to the Mungyo Professional Watercolors, but I need to choose which is better between these comparisons. So let's begin with the Sonnet Watercolors. These are very comparable, and they also both use the PO13, which is, poor in Lightfastness. So I think this is a draw because my satisfaction is the same. But the price, I think I'd go with Sonnet because it's cheaper, but the performance is really very comparable. Now let's go to Winsor & Newton Cotman. The performance is also very comparable, but I have bigger trust in the pigments used in the Cotman set, so I'm choosing the Winsor & Newton Cotman. And lastly, Van Gogh 12+3 half pans. They are very comparable when it comes to the intensity of colors. Even the movement is very much the same. But if I had to choose, I'll choose Van Gogh watercolors because the pigments here are, I think, better. Like for the cool red, they used PV19, which is a more reliable pigment than these two, which are, more on the fugitive side. Our next set of paints are these artist grade paints that are very much comparable to Mungyo, but I think I'm choosing these artist grade paints over Mungyo because I have just discovered that lots of the pigments in Mungyo are fugitive. Now let's begin with the Lucas Aquarelle 1862. Obviously, the colors of Mungyo are better. They're more intense, but if you look at some of the pigments here are more reliable. So if I'm to choose, I think I'd choose the 1862 because the pigment codes give me confidence in in doing my paintings. But it's really hard to choose, so it's really up to you. Now let's go to Kokuyo Camlin Camel Watercolors. They were not able to provide pigment codes, so that's a minus point. But come on, let's look at the colors. The colors are really something. They're really strong, especially my favorite here, the French Ultramarine. So there's no doubt these are great paints. Now let's go to the Paul Rubens watercolors. Obviously, the colors of Mungyo are more punchy, more vibrant. But again, the pigments used at Paul Rubens are, I think, better as compared to the colors at Mungyo. Now let's go to the Maris Masters watercolors. Obviously, they're very much comparable when it comes to the, punchiness of the colors, the vibrance of the colors. But it seems that the Mungyo paints are more transparent. But I think the pigments used at Maris Masters are better. Our last set of paints are the artist grade paints that are, I think, better against Mungyo Professional Watercolors. So this is just for visual comparison. Let's begin with the Mission Gold Class watercolors from Korea, the Winsor & Newton Professional, the A. Gallo Honey watercolors from Italy, Holbein Artist watercolors from Japan, Holbein Botanical Art also from Japan, White Nights watercolor tubes from Russia, White Nights by St. Petersburg also from Russia, Daniel Smith sticks from US, the Jello Pure Pigment set also from Korea, Rembrandt Luxury Pocket Box set from Netherlands, and the Daniel Smith Ultimate Mixing set. And of course, this comparison will not be complete without comparing side by side our Mungyo Professional Watercolor against its rumored twin brand. And that's the Prima Marketing Watercolors. This is the Tropical set. And I think there's no contest here. It's a draw because for me, they're just the same paints. And we need to prove yet, but I think the comparison that we did earlier is almost a proof that they are just the same paints. So now, if you're gonna ask me would I recommend the Mungyo Professional Watercolors, my answer is yes. But, yes, there's a but. But if you are a professional artist who do commission paintings, or if you paint for paintings that are to be displayed or to be framed, you might want to think twice. Why? Okay, let's first begin with the strengths of Mungyo. Okay, the colors are very vibrant. I think these are really pigmented brand, and generally the colors are very transparent. They're easy to work with. They don't flow really crazily, but it's fine. They're very manageable, I think, and I'm happy about my output here. But the main issue here are the pigments selected, because in this set alone they have already used some fugitive pigments or some pigments that are poor in lightfastness. So if you care about lightfastness, or if you do not want your paintings to, to change or to fade in time, you might want to think twice. But if you're painting for school projects or for paintings in sketchpads, for journals, this is really nice because they are really vibrant and intense. And I think they're quite affordable. For $26, you now have a 24 color half pan set, so I think that's not bad at all. So I think that's all for today. If you're not subscribed yet, please do subscribe to show support to my channel. Please also don't forget to like and share this video. See you again on Friday for the last episode of our World Watercolor Month Challenge. Again, thank you for watching, and God bless you all.